Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today we have an incredible guest who's built his career at the crossroads of entrepreneurship, the energy industry, and strategic investing. Our guest today is the co-founder and co-owner of Oliva Gibbs, a firm dedicated to providing exceptional service to the energy industry. Since 2013, our guest has been at the helm of strategic planning for the firm, helping upstream operators and oil field service companies navigate the complex contracts, title issues, and asset transactions across multiple states. But his expertise doesn't stop there. He's also a trusted advisor for entrepreneurs in the energy sector, offering valuable guidance on partnership dissolution, key business milestones, and high-stake negotiations. He also brings a unique perspective to the table, combining his extensive legal knowledge with his expertise as a professional investor. As founder of the Oliva Partner Management LLC, a long-only valued investment fund, he advises leadership teams with insight from both worlds, law and investing. Beyond his professional work, our guest dedicates his time to mentoring entrepreneurs through organizations like the Entrepreneurs Organization, and he's passionate about helping others succeed. So get ready to dive deep into strategic business planning, entrepreneurship in the energy section, and the art of balancing legal expertise with investment acumen. So please give a warm welcome to my guest, Zack Oliva. Zack, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, how you doing, Phil? It's great to be here.
I am so excited to get you on the podcast because I know nothing about the energy sector. I know nothing about law. I know a little bit about investing, thanks to my other podcast, but I'm really excited to talk to you about how all of those things interconnect in your life as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
All right, so without missing a beat, I want to know why. Why didn't you just stay as a lawyer? Why did you jump into the world of entrepreneurship, start your own firm, start a second business investing? What made you decide to do that?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I think I started my first business when I was probably 7 or 8, and that was a printing business. I remember my first computer was like a gateway computer with a printer, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have this amazing business. I'm going to make party invites and birthday cards and all those things. So that business did not take off as expected. But over the years, even throughout college, I started businesses, some of them that worked out really well, kind of in the content creation, blogging space. And even throughout law school, I was really more interested in almost like the business of law than I would make a very bad criminal defense attorney, or because I just don't. Those people, they have to have a strong passion for the law, for trial work, and to be a really strong advocate. And I've always seen myself as more of kind of like an architect. And so the first, right out of law school, the first law firm that I worked at in Houston, Texas, which is where I live now, after about a month, there were some problems with that business, with that firm, that I recognized in the marketing side, on the sales side, on the operations side. And I think I was like 25 or 26 at the time. And at that point, I had pretty much decided, I think I can do this on my own, because I noticed that there were some fundamental gaps in the business model there. And so, co-founded this firm in 2013. So about 11 years ago. I think I was 25 or 26 years old. And it has grown from, myself and who I founded the business with. We were kind of working out of a closet. Today we have 6 offices, I think around 80 employees, about 50 or 55 full-time attorneys on staff. And we represent oil and gas companies all across the country. So it's grown, really significantly, which has been, awesome.
I can only imagine. What
Look,
when you
I will say that I did not know how to grow that business. It was not automatic. It was, you know, uh, 6 years of doing it the wrong way, and 4 or 5 years of finally figuring out how to do it the right way. So it was like an overnight change that took a lot of a lot of a lot of frustration.
that's what it is. What I found with a lot of my entrepreneurs that I've been able to interview, it's a lot of people think it's an overnight success. They start their business, a couple nights later, boom, they're up in the sky. You've just
Yeah,
proven that it can take 6 years. And
I
go ahead.
yeah. I wish I mean at some points, you just wish it was a little bit easier. You hear I mean, I think you hear stories and anecdotes about, oh yeah, just after 1 year the business just took off, and I'm like, gosh, that'd be great. But in my experience, at least, was that it did not happen that way.
And I find that those are the unicorns. Those ones that just happen
Mhm.
overnight are very unicorn. Either they've already had experience building businesses, so they know already what's wrong. And the ones that don't, they just get lucky. And
Mhm.
by luckily, I mean they just fumble into the right process and they hit it at the right time. Um,
Mhm.
I'm wondering what during those 6 years of building the business the wrong way, as you say it, or
Mhm.
learning the ways not to build the business, was there a moment where you decided to hang up the bootstraps and go to another firm, or were you like, no, I want to pursue this until I can't anymore?
No, I mean the business during those years, it was still making pretty good money. But I think what was frustrating for me is I didn't have a framework to grow the business, and so the growth was kind of happening in fits and starts, and it wasn't really it didn't really feel like it was on purpose. There were a few frameworks that I tried to implement into the firm, and I think that I was just not that great of a leader and getting buy-in from everyone on it. And I also, was just trying to hold myself accountable. Now that I work with a business coach and we have a leadership team and all that, like my life is a lot easier, and the growth is a lot more strategic and planned out. There was so around the same time I started the law firm, I actually started another business that was an online marketplace in the construction industry. So we sold like used steel, barges, cranes, things like that. And I exited that business in 2018. So I had two, ever since I was 25, 26, I've kind of always had two businesses kind of going on at the same time. And I was the CEO of that business at the same time that I was running the law firm. So that was an exercise in futility of trying to work 7 days a week. Um, Shocker that it does not do great things for your mental health.
I can only imagine having the stress of
Yeah.
two different businesses that aren't even in the same industry. Like if at least you were doing a business that was in the energy sector and you're working in a law firm for the energy sector, there's a little crossover, but you're over here in the construction world and the energy
Well,
sector.
it was not only the construction world, but it was also the software world. And so
Oh,
I had no, experience in software or building marketplaces from the ground up. And we took basically no outside capital. We raised a little bit of money, but for the most part, it was bootstrapped. And so I basically locked myself in a cabin in East Texas for a week or so with these books on how to build marketplaces. And I designed out like the structure of the marketplace. And then we hired a developer to actually build it. But it was kind of soup to nuts, all on us to design. So very different, very, very different businesses. But there's a lot of commonality between them too. I think they both have 4 pillars, which every business has, which is people, strategy, execution, and cash. And those 4 things go across every business.
I love that. When you finally with blah, sorry, I got like 10 questions that wanted to come out at one time, but I want to talk about your business coach because that's something that's very important. Having someone that can help you go on, it's part of investing in yourself, getting those coaches, getting those mentors. In the 6 years that you were quote unquote running the business wrong, I don't want to say you were running it wrong, you were just you're figuring it out. When did you hire that business coach? Was it at the end of the 6 years when things started to turn, or was it prior to the things turning around that you hired that business coach?
No, I think it was during COVID. I mean, we work with oil and gas companies. I was kind of a little bit worried during COVID because oil prices went negative, and obviously when your main client's product is negatively priced in the market, that has bad implications for you. Fortunately, we were able to, actually grew a little bit during COVID through excellent client relationships, and because we have a great team that helps manage those projects for clients. But during COVID, I think I had some personal things, personal events that happened in my life that kind of combined with COVID. And I just decided, you know what? I just really want to just double this business. How do I double this business in the next year? I knew it was theoretically possible, but I could not figure out the inner workings. And so, I just decided that we were going to double. And the first step to doubling was to implement this process called this strategic framework called scaling up, which is similar to EOS, into the business. And I had tried to implement that, a few years earlier in both the marketplace and the law firm and was unsuccessful. And so I went on the website and I just got connected with a great scaling up coach. And, those scaling up coaches, the coach that I work with, he's been a CEO of like 5 companies, and they require 200 hours a year of continuing education for the coaches. So like they're legit, and he brings a ton of value, and we have a great working relationship. What was interesting is that when we first started working together, he said, look, I know you want to do this. And I've never worked with a law firm before, but he's worked with companies like 100 million in revenue, 200 million in revenue, et cetera. And he said, you might be the problem. So the scaling up process highlights everything that's going good in the business and everything that's going bad. You might be one of the things in the business that's going bad. And are you prepared for that? And I was like, yeah, I just want to grow this thing. So like I can change my personality if I need to, my work habits, whatever. But I was totally open to the fact that I might have been part of the problem. And I think in some ways I was part of the problem, probably just lack of leadership skills. I was not a great communicator. I think I took things a little bit too personally. And so, working with him over the years has been really excellent and helping me hone those skills.
I love that. And so I kind of want to touch on, because getting a mentor, getting a coach is one step to investing in yourself, because they will be able to see the things that you can't, because you're looking at the tree, which is yourself. They can see the forest that is actually you. What other things have you done to invest in yourself to become, one, a better leader, but also a better business entrepreneur, if you will?
Sure. So I've spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years investing in myself. I think probably when I met my wife, I think this was like 2016, 2017, she was working in software sales, and then she had this dream of becoming a life coach. And I was completely like right brain about the whole thing. Like, well, life coaches are BS. What you really need to do is you need to go back to school, get your master's degree, become a psychologist. That's how you really help people. Like I was thinking in such academic terms, because that's that lawyer background, right? And then during COVID, I really had a need to work with somebody, and she was like, "Look, I think that you should try this coach that I know, because she has a coaching practice now, and she does awesome at it, and she's in that world. So she connected me with a coach, and I was like, yeah, whatever, we'll see. I mean, this guy like changed my life in like 6 months. It was absolutely incredible. Completely changed my way of thinking. He works with like NFL players, professional golfers on mindset, and so I was really, I mean, it was. I went in there thinking that I was going to get like figure out how to double, the law firm, and we figured that out on like day 3, and then we had like 6 more months of just creating awesome stuff together. So that kind of really started my. I was always into personal development before, and it was mostly related to reading a lot and books. And that really started kind of my personal development, investing in myself in a really big way journey. So now I have a coach that I work with just on leadership, and she's amazing. I have the business coach that I work with inside the firm. I'm a member of an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO, which is like a global entrepreneur network. Several of your listeners are probably members of that. And I'm active in that. I'm our moderator of our forum this year. So it's really cool to be able to like help facilitate the growth of, 11 or 12 of our forum mates. And I'm also a member of an organization called Strategic Coach, which is Dan Sullivan, I think, is most popular now for writing the book, Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X. So I'm a member of that coaching program, and I go out to Santa Monica, every quarter for that. And, you're surrounded with 40 entrepreneurs learning these Dan Sullivan thinking tools, and everyone's kind of trading ideas on how to grow your business and stuff. So I also invest in myself with a personal trainer that I work out with 4 days a week. And I have private jujitsu lessons every Sunday morning. So, one of my partners likes to joke that I'm like the coach of coaches because I work with so many right now, but it's so great because it just speeds things up so often. And I don't think of them as like coaches. I think of them as like part of Team Zack,
I love that. I love how you're building your own team. And you, instead of looking at them like, yeah, they're my coaches, they're part of my team to make me a better person.
Yeah.
I love that mentality. Because
and I think that I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
It's fine. It's all good.
Okay. I just think sometimes, folks might think, well, everything's great. Why do you keep investing in yourself if everything's great? And I kind of look at it like going to the gym. Like, I'm strong. So does that mean that I stop going to the gym? No, you keep going. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at investing in myself personally.
I think that's a great thing because, yeah, like you said, if Arnold Schwarzenegger stopped going to the gym, he wouldn't be Mr. Olympia. He wouldn't be the world's strongest person. He wouldn't be the bodybuilder and the celebrity that he is today. And it's the same thing. Like, if you want to be the best of the best, you always have to continually train. And that's what you're doing with these coaches. You're training yourself to be the best version of yourself and to get to that version. It's kind of like what Matthew McConaughey said. I'm always chasing the person who's 5 years ahead of me, which is myself in 5 years. So I think that's a great way of doing it. I'm interested because you said earlier, I'm doing a call back here, and I'm very proud of myself for finally doing a call back in an episode. You said earlier you've always been someone who's run 2 businesses. You always have 2 things on the go. More recently, you had your marketplace for construction and law firm, and now you have this investment fund. What challenges do you seem to have when you're running 2 businesses that are essentially in different niches, if you will, but they're a business, so they do have those 4 pillars like you mentioned earlier? How do you balance your time with that? Because being a lawyer is obviously time intensive when you have to deal with stuff. So how do you do that, and how do you balance the 2 roles?
Well, I think the better your team, the less amount of time it takes, right? And so really, at the law firm, I've got an awesome team. Recently, I had a kind of like a family emergency in Europe, and I had to fly the very next day to Europe to go show up for someone in my family. It's really important to me, and I was able to just, hey, send my team a quick message. I have to do this. I'll be back next week, and they just handle everything because they're great, and we always show up for each other in that way. And so, having a great team around you that's better than you in most ways is really kind of a force multiplier, in my opinion. And I look at balancing the time commitments to the two businesses as kind of dependent on where the businesses are in their cycle. Like for us, I have two busy seasons basically. February, where we have a really big convention and there's a lot of activity around that for the law firm. And usually October, which is where we're wrapping up our annual planning for next year, working on the 3-year plan, the 5-year plan. I'm heavily involved in that aspect of it, planning the agendas, who's coming, what we're going to cover, in the meetings, how I need to position everything, and what I need that end result to look like. So now is a really busy time for the law firm. For the investment fund, there's not really a busy time. I'm mostly just always generating ideas for that, and am building a really good team. And I look at time management of different businesses like probably. So I have one child now, a daughter. She's 2. And I look at people that have 3 or 4 kids, and I'm like, how do you do that, right? And I'm sure their answer is, I just do it. Like if I had to stop and think about how I'm doing this, it would actually slow me down from doing it. If I had to sit there and really analyze, like, how am I doing this? How is this even possible? What am I dropping the ball on? And so I think if I really slowed down how to manage 2 businesses or multiple businesses at the same time, I would be doing myself a disservice because to me, it's just what I've always done, and I just make it work, kind of the same as someone with 4 kids.
I like that. Plus the fact that you have a great team at one of your businesses,
Yeah.
that doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt. But
People are, I mean, that for 6 years at that law firm, we just did not focus on the right people. And there's a Jim Collins concept called the right people in the right seat. And do you know the backstory to that?
I've been told this story. I would love for you to tell the audience the
So the backstory of that is it was a bunch of guys in Boston taking LSD, and they were taking a bus across the country, and they had to in order to make it across the country alive. When you have a bus full of people, this was like in the 60s, 70s, right?
When it was a little safer to do that.
Bunch of people on acid going across the country. You have to have the right people in the right seat. And so one person was the navigator, one person was in charge of the food, one person was in charge of the water, and they all had assigned seats, and they made it across the country. And so that's actually where Jim Collins gets the
idea
the
for
phrasing of right people in the right seat from on the bus. But that was something that I didn't know about, and now it just always comes down to people. And in fact, every quarter, we ask ourselves, would you enthusiastically rehire all of your direct reports? And when I ask that question to other entrepreneurs, they always say, can I leave out the enthusiastically? And I'm like, no, it has to. Would you enthusiastically rehire all of your direct reports?
I think that's a great question that people need to ask themselves more often to create that team and create the right people in the right seats. I kind of feel I want to know, like, when did you become a mentor for the entrepreneurs in EO and the other organizations that you work through? Was that something that you've always wanted to be, or was that something that you were led into by being a member of these organizations?
No, I think that's a great question. I've always really enjoyed helping people out. I know that I got a ton of help throughout my life. People were very generous with time and advice to me when I asked. And I have probably talked to 30 law students over the years about like, hey, I want to start a law firm. What do I need to know? Um, and uh, One thing that was frustrating for me for several years was I had friends that owned businesses that I saw in my experience making some mistakes. And so I would probably offer like unsolicited advice, like, hey, I've been there before. There's a huge danger sign here. Or have you considered it this way? And I would get, frustrated sometimes when folks didn't take that advice, or when people would come to advice and then they wouldn't take it. That was always frustrating for me. But once I joined EO, like they have a formal mentoring program where it's structured. The person, is going to do what they say they're going to do. And for me, getting that traction is really important because I like to see transformation in people. Like I really like to help people out and see it be effective. Um, and so I think I've always helped people. And for me, having like more of a structured process is a lot easier. Although I've never had a mentor before. So this is actually the first year that I'm in the EO program additionally as a mentee,
Oh,
which I'm really looking forward to because I think I've not properly developed, or not yet have properly developed, the skill of developing mentors. And I've seen in people that I admire that they've just done an excellent job throughout their life of doing that. And I think it's a really admirable quality. And so I'm starting to build that skill now through this program.
I love that. Kind of before we get to the last question here, I want to know, where do you see yourself, your two businesses in the next 10 years? I know you strategically plan and your guys are looking at that now,
Okay.
but what hope do you have? Like if I can snap my fingers, we're 10 years in the future, what is Zach doing?
Sure. So, uh, 10 years from now, the law firm will be the best energy firm in the country, which we define as being ranked in Chambers, which is like a legal industry ranking, and being listed in the AmLaw 200, which is the 200 largest law firms in the country by revenue. So that's where we're headed with this business, and every year we do something to get us closer to that. And then the investment fund will have a few $100 million under management, and will just be delivering great returns for the investors in the fund. So that's where those two businesses are headed.
I love that. Now that we're coming to the end, which I hate because Zach, you've been fun. I love chatting with you. I want to learn more about EO and the other organizations that you're helping grow, and of course your business. But I'm very cognitive of your time. So my last question to you is: I have your 10-year-old self here, Zach. He's a lot of fun. He's trying to sell me birthday cards right now for his new business. But I would love to know what piece of advice you would love to hand back to your 10-year-old self.
This is interesting because I actually, about a year ago, I started writing a book to my daughter. And every month I write basically a chapter. And I think that the most common thread throughout all of those chapters has been like, it's going to work out okay. Take it easy on yourself. Have great relationships. And so to my 10-year-old self, I would just probably say the same thing, like, take it easy on yourself. It's going to work out more amazing than you expected, and really purposefully invest in relationships with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Just continue to just help people wherever you can.
Oh, I think that's some amazing advice. Zach, I'm going to jump off stage here. I'm going to download that advice a bit more into my brain to understand it more. I want you to let my audience know where they can find you, how they can connect with you if they're looking to get into investing or they're looking to get a mentor in the entrepreneurial space or in the law area. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Sure. So probably the best way to get a hold of me is just on LinkedIn. If you just type in Zack Oliva, Oliva, into LinkedIn, you can find me there. And information about our companies is on there, and I'm pretty responsive to messages and stuff. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Amazing. Zach, I want to thank you so much for being here. I had a pleasure chatting with you, and your advice for the 10-year-olds is prominent for everybody at any stage of their life. So thank you very much for
Sure.
dropping that and
Yeah,
sharing
thanks,
your
Phil.
story.
I enjoyed this, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to connect with Zach and connect with his business if you're interested in all that. I thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.